Uh, we cannot accept Darwinian evolution as such without the soul. So that is the that is the concept that we are trying to discuss.
But I find it very interesting what you say. And do you know there are, for example, in our Christian tradition also attempts at integrating Darwinian point of view in, if you will, in a wider theological understanding of nature. For example, Teilhard de Chardin. Teilhard de Chardin is a Jesuit that worked a lot of time about this point. And I completely agree that there are, in my opinion, different degrees in nature of consciousness and of, if you will, spirituality. I mean, everywhere in our world there is intelligence. This is not this is not a fact that concerns only human beings.
Matter and mind are considered ontologically distinct from consciousness. So unlike Platonism, or Plato's view, or Descartes' view, consciousness is something that's actually different from the physical form as well as our mental capacities. On this view, we have basically access to two different sorts of realms. We can all see and hear and taste things in the objective physical world. And we also have our own internal private life of thoughts, emotions, feelings. And both of these are considered material. That's why we find in modern neurobiological research such a close relationship between what goes on in the brain and between the mind. The Bhagavata, this particular text, posits a third aspect of reality, which is called consciousness, or the jiva, or the purusha, or the atma, which is different from both the external physical world and the internal mental world.
So that's basically the question. Can we really honestly say consciousness is a meaningful concept when it comes to a plant?
On the view of the Bhagavata, a pure consciousness enters into different types of biological forms, plants, animals, amoebas, whatever. And once it enters into that particular form, once it begins identifying with that form, it's governed by the laws or the capacities and the abilities of that particular form. To return to the movie analogy, I think you choose to go into the horror film, then you're going to get scared, hopefully. If you go into the love story, you're going to fall in love. If you go into the adventure story, you're going to feel adventure. So I think the analogy holds that when you enter a human body, you get a human experience. When you enter a plant body, when the pure self enters into a plant body, it gets a plant experience.
And even here, life we observe today comes from previous life. Spontaneous generation is ruled out since Pasteur experiments back in the 19th century. And thirdly, attempts to reproduce life in vitro are unsuccessful so far, to say the least. Because we are far away to reproduce even a simple bacteria in the lab.
Spirituality is private. Religion is public. If religions do not organize private spirituality or lose sight of it and rather go into the power business and politics, that's where the problems are. Now, scientific insight is private. Scientific knowledge is public. Scientists have found a method to translate private experience into some generally accepted body of knowledge. I think we should research the methods by which private spirituality can be translated into a body of publicly acceptable religious teachings.
So in other words, the modern science tries to be almost exclusively mechanistic. However, these mechanistic models are thus entirely dependent on our limited powers of sense perceptions. However, every honest and thoughtful person will agree that the electron, just like God, has never been seen. However, although the electron cannot be seen, its nature and existence can be understood by its symptoms. The symptoms can be inferred from the electron's influence in the interactions with observable energies. In the same way, the spiritual soul, or the spiriton, we can say, cannot be seen, but its symptom consciousness can be perceived. Similarly, God can also can be experienced if we look for the symptoms of His existence. For example, beauty, truthfulness, intricate and mathematically perfect laws of nature, mysteries and mysticism, etc. Some of these are quantifiable, such as the mathematical laws, while others, like beauty, cannot be quantified or explained by rigorous scientific process. But we all know that both of these groups do exist as a part of reality. Therefore, the conclusion is that reality exists beyond the boundaries of empirical observation.
Lately, meetings like this one are more and more frequent, and I would like to thank the organizers and Dr. Singh for inviting me. And in these meetings there are scientists of different cultures and representatives of different religions. Believers and laymen have a dialogue on the most important themes of modern science and of life science. Independently of what our origin is, we might never know that. Independently of whether we are fruit of chance or necessity, it's not so important knowing where we come from, but where we are going and how we are going there. Thank you.
Why the free will topic is so important within this discussion? Because the free will is an element which enables the soul to develop itself. The free will enables to go right or left according to the freedom with God. It enables to decay or to grow. So it is the free will is a tool of consciousness which enables to have this development. Darwin did not identify the consciousness, so it did not identify the free will.
When we consider the process of life, it may be difficult to accept that we become ever more alive, and yet for every human being it is true that he or she is not a mortal being moving towards its end, but is an immortal being beginning to live. It would be very easy to quote many texts from the Bible, the Vedas, the Quran, Adi Granth, teachings of the Buddha and other venerable collections of writings. In each of them, and you find them all on Google, you open Google and you find all these texts as you want to have them. But in each of them you would find texts to support our assertion that in the view of world's religions, human life can be seen as a process, not of dying, but of a being born. Therefore, also, we go from one moment of birth to another. Each moment of birth is a becoming free, a liberation. We move from rebirth to the final great rebirth of unending, infinite life. And that happens when one leaves behind skin and bones.